we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Mark S. Lee, and I will be your MC this evening. But before we get started, what we're going to ask you to do is to rise for the national anthem. I'd like to introduce Ms. LaMarsha Spann for the singing of the national anthem, please.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Whoa, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, LaMarsha. Thank you for that beautiful rendition of the national anthem. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this special evening, a special occasion. And again, my name is Mark S. Lee. I'm the founder, president, and CEO of the Lee Group, which is an integrated communications marketing firm headquartered here in Metro Detroit. I'm also a host of the Conversations with the Mayor series that we've been doing for the last 18 months on a monthly basis, where we try to bring you the latest and greatest in terms of what was happening here in the city of Pontiac. I'm also a host, a radio host on 910 AM, the Superstation in the Conference Room with Mark S. Lee, that airs weekly. The Motor City airs also across the country and across the globe, so I would ask you to tune in. I'm also a media contributor. I write for Crain's Detroit Business. I contribute to the Detroit Free Press, Detroit News, Fox 2 News, Channel 7, American Black Journal on Channel 56. And I also contribute to a radio station in the Big Apple in New York City. I will serve as the MC this evening, and would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to Mayor Waterman's State of the City Farewell Address for the city of Detroit, for the city of Pontiac. For the city of Pontiac. And, you know, what I'd like to do at this point is if we have any elected officials to please stand and be acknowledged. And we're going to, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so we have the chair of the Oakland County Black Caucus, Joseph Person, Kenyatta Bowman, Board of Trustees, School Board, and Mark Holland, Deputy Mayor. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Thank you for joining us. At the very top end, we also have Mr. Carrington, William Carrington, School Board Trustee. Please also stand. He's also a City Council elect as well. And Ms. Mikhail Goodman. Yes, Mikhail Goodman, please. Councilman-elect from District 3. Also, please stand up and be recognized. Thank you very much. And before we have the other musical selection, we have the invocation for Pastor Ramon Rogers from Zion's Tabernacle Apostolic Faith Church. Pastor, please.
Just going to ask you to pray with me. Most holy and eternal God, we appreciate you for allowing us to gather for this farewell state of the city address. And before we ask you for anything, we thank you for everything. We thank you for this mayor not giving up on the city during deficit, economic decline, and receivership. We thank you for her enduring hardness as a good soldier and walking through the valley of the shadow of death without fear. We thank you for this mayor bringing new businesses into the city, growing employment opportunity, and increasing property values, all while ensuring Pontiac is solvent for years to come. Oh Lord, in 1 Timothy, the 2nd chapter, and verse 2, your word tells us to pray for all that are in authority. So I take a moment to pray for the incoming administration. Bless him and his staff to be fiscally responsible and wise stewards over the $14 million surplus they will inherit, and the $37 million governmental assistance that's been provided to Pontiac. Help him to surround himself with people that have a heart and a love for the city of Pontiac. I submit unto you this prayer in the name that is above every name. It is in Jesus' name I do pray and give thanks and say amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate that. Again, now with the musical selection from Miss Panigan, please come back up, go marshal the band for a musical selection.
We give you all the glory. We worship you, our Lord, for you are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you, our Lord, for you are worthy to be praised. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you, our Lord, for you are worthy to be praised. And we give you all the glory, and we worship you, our Lord, for you are worthy to be praised. Oh, yes, you are. And we give you all worship you, our Lord, for you are worthy to be praised.
Thank you again for that beautiful rendition. Talk about being flexible. I tell you, got to give her another round of applause for being flexible, and certainly a beautiful rendition. So thank you again, Marsha Spann. So tonight, Mayor Deirdre Waterman will look back over her 8 years in office and discuss her legacy projects, the current challenges, but also will look ahead. She's been a committed public servant with decades of professional expertise, public service, and also just quite frankly, giving back to the community. She was elected in 2013, took office in 2014, becoming the first woman to ever be elected to the position here in Pontiac. She's an ophthalmologist by profession. Dr. Waterman is a longtime business owner and operated her practice, Holloway Eye Care, in Pontiac for over 30 years. Mayor Waterman was the first African-American female ophthalmologist in the state of Michigan, and many residents have been patients in her practice. Mayor Waterman has called Pontiac home for over 4 decades, and she is an active member of the Plymouth United Church of Christ. But before she comes out, we want to share with you a very special video, and it's called Pontiac's Blight-Free Project, a role model for transformational development in an urban city. This is a video retrospective, and we're so pleased to share it with you this evening. So tonight we're actually premiering a documentary film that was commissioned by the Blight Task Force, founded by entrepreneur Bill Pulte, to chronicle the progress of the Blight-Free Project in Pontiac, which resulted in the condemnation, demolition, or rehabilitation of nearly every dangerous and debilitated homes and commercial structures in Pontiac. Working with the City Council, who committed funds from the federal block grant funds, federal TARP, and other funds, Mayor Waterman set out a program to rid the city of this long festering problem in the city that had been basically a challenge in the neighborhoods where they were boarded up, road infested, open and trespass buildings, and had neighborhood blights or blighted neighborhoods for years. Thinking it would take 10 years to accomplish this goal, the Blight-Free program moved with such tenacity, the Pontiac announced the accomplishment of the blight-free status from that original inventory in 2020, meaning the goal had been accomplished in only 5 years. This documentary, filmed over the last year and a half, captures the program in Pontiac as a role model for other urban communities. So here tonight, you'll be the first to see this film in its entirety. Immediately after this video premiere, Mayor Waterman will take the stage to give her State of the City address. Sit back and relax and enjoy this documentary.
I think the biggest question I ask often is, can Pontiac really become the city that everyone wants it to become? My family, my grandparents came to Pontiac about 70 years ago to work at General Motors, like many families did. And it was the hope and promise of a great future, a great life for our family, and something great here in this city.
At one time, Pontiac was booming, was the place to live. Everybody, almost everybody in the city of Pontiac were doing pretty good. My parents moved here for better living. The reason that they moved here was because my dad got a job at General Motors, and at the time, that was the thing to do.
The automotive industry opened a lot of doors for a lot of people. There was good paying jobs. It was giving people opportunity to raise families on a good salary, retirement funds, good education, so things that made the city of Pontiac very resourceful.
GM kind of owned Pontiac. They bought Pontiac. They were almost one and the same. Pontiac essentially had all of its economic eggs in one basket, and they had the General Motors checkbook. And so there was no diversity of its economic base. They didn't really need anything else. And it was great until it wasn't.
GM is shutting down the 83-year-old product line.
When General Motors started moving out, people lost jobs, people had to move out because they were following their jobs. So things started going down. GM was the main source of income here. Everything that was related or associated left the city of Pontiac. That was just about everything in Pontiac, you know. Everybody worked at General Motors.
At the depth of the 2008 recession, it was lights out for the city. The emergency managers came in and they moved in to sell the assets of the city to pay down the debts. Tom Brokaw had a piece on the nightly news titled City for Sale, where you could literally buy City Hall, the schools, DPW. You had a wholesale sale of the city.
I became mayor after a period of 12 years when Pontiac had faced a financial crisis, like a lot of cities in the country did after that 2008 downturn. And I was the first mayor post-emergency manager. They sold off almost every major facility that wasn't already occupied by the city. And so that was very demoralizing to the city of Pontiac. We were a city that was known as crime-laden, economically strapped, second cousin in the middle of a otherwise very prosperous county, one of the most prosperous counties in the United States. One of the things I felt that we could do was what turned out to be a blight program for the city. So many homes had been abandoned or had been foreclosed on during the financial crisis, and they were no longer cared for. So for years, we'd had a situation where our neighborhoods were pockmarked and disfigured with homes that were blighted, that were abandoned, that were derelict, roofs caved in, boarded up, rodent infested, threatening children's safe walks to schools. And this is a problem that had preceded the emergency manager, but of course became worse because of the economic situation. So it was determined that that would be one of our priority projects.
So a good analogy would be a blueprint where this has been done before in other cities, and the Blight Authority essentially was that blueprint. The first thing that happened was identifying blight. What is blight? You certainly don't want to take significant historical structures and remove them. In situations like that, of course, you want to repurpose them.
Blight comes in a variety of forms. It can be everything from abandoned vehicles to debris to a building that's needing repair. It can be tall grass, it can be overgrown shrubbery, it can be dead trees, down limbs. Blight can have a myriad of faces in a city.
We realized first we had to take stock and inventory of the properties. So we spent some time in making sure that we knew all the properties that should have been brought before our Board of Appeals. We also made special waivers to people who wanted to rehabilitate them, because if we could rehabilitate them, turn into a successful housing stock, then we certainly want to do that. Bill Pulte's involvement in Pontiac was a direct result of his having the experience of being involved in Detroit. And so I saw what he had done there, and as we were beginning our project, I reached out to him, and he actually brought in his vision of the Blight Task Force.
The city of Pontiac took a proactive approach to blight, much different than its neighboring sister to the south, Detroit, and some of the other cities in Michigan are doing. And the proactive was an important collaboration. The collaboration was first and foremost. And so the county leadership partnered with the city leadership, utilizing their political capital to bring in Pulte and some others to create this partnership. And they did that as a collaborative so that they could scale down the cost of it.
In Pontiac, there were about 1,100 structures that were identified through the Blight Authority as structures that should come down. But what was realized is that it was a fixable condition for Pontiac. CBG funds were used, community block grant funds and federal money was used to take down these structures. But it was a public-private partnership between the Blight Authority and Bill's ability to communicate with the mayor. The brilliance of the Blight Authority program was that it created scarcity in a town that had an oversupply of housing. So you had 1,100 properties that were driving down property values. And when you remove them from the mix, it actually created a 5x return. So had you taken $1 million and invested in Bloomfield Hills, from 2011 to 2018, you have had a 19% return. Had you taken that same $1 million and invested it in Pontiac, you would have had a 5x return. So you would have had a 400% return in Pontiac.
You tear down the blight around it and you create the aesthetic, the curb appeal, then the economics of that building go up. So the market value of what the property is here in Pontiac incrementally goes up when you take down that negative effect. And so the removal of blight is imperative in any old industrial city. It just is. For our commercial areas in Pontiac, when you have blight that's removed that's next to those commercial areas, you create greater walkability, you create a greater sense of safety because people aren't afraid to walk by empty and dangerous looking structures. They don't know who's there or what's there. And as that walkability increases, guess what happens? That store owner feels more confident, invests in their property next door, and now that commercial and that retail economy starts to go. So you're gonna have a greater sense of market, everybody's property values rise.
The continuum we have here is now that we have gotten rid of the structural blight, we now have vacant properties. And we now are developing the strategic plans for how we deal with those vacant properties. In some instances where the city has retained ownership of them, we have offered them to people in the neighborhood or people who live next door and say, you give us a plan where you'll make sure that this property is well developed and utilized over the next 5 years, and we'll let you buy it.
We own about 9 vacant lots around the neighborhood that all at one time were houses that burned down, got demolished, for whatever reason got scraped off of the lots that they were on, and now they're just vacant lots that were sitting there. And we've taken 9 of those, planted fruit trees on them, planted gardens on them, put little pocket parks in this neighborhood with picnic tables and things like that just for people in our community to enjoy. And then we have a number of them where we are growing food. And so now we have about 1.5 acres of community garden space that includes 2 greenhouses, a bunch of raised beds, and each year we grow about 12,000 pounds of food out of that space.
Coleman's vision was to bring back the community to good standards. People can join together as one and be, a community. When you got people like that and people that's willing to contribute to the community, it makes a better life for you and the people around you.
When I first saw this lot, it was all run down. You couldn't even walk through 3/4 of it. It was all overgrown with trees and tall stringy vines. So I took the time, cleared all of it out, took about 18 trees out of here, decided to make a garden up front and do the landscaping back there. And I feel by doing that, the people in the neighborhood see that it's, someone's coming along, so it makes other people want to improve their yards too. So I think it's done a lot for this area anyway.
The biggest hurdle with moving a building is getting it through the system. And I tell people that a blighted building, it can be the Rock of Gibraltar. But if it's overgrown, if it's open to trespass, it becomes a dangerous building.
We had a 30% decrease in arson fires because they were abandoned. We now could proclaim that children had safe walks to school, very important for us, as a lot of children were going to neighborhood schools.
Turnover in this neighborhood has slowed way down since we moved in. Also, because of that, part of the thing that happens when you have people that stay and make a neighborhood their home is that crime goes down. Violent crime in this neighborhood is down 40% since we moved in 8 years ago.
This used to be a rough area. I mean, one of the roughest when I first started 20-something years ago. Now that's a community house for sheltered women. Like when they want to do turnaround and help them get their credit scores up and help them, get back to some type of normalcy. Where majority of these empty lots are at, these houses have been torn down in the last 4 years. That's how serious and how fast they were concerned about blight here. Mayor Waterman took it very serious. And for me, I didn't have to have a meeting with her for her to take it serious. You know what I mean? Like you see it in the neighborhoods because that's where we're at. Now you start to care more about your neighborhoods. Now you use the park that's over here. When you're decluttering your mind, when you're getting the blight out your mind, you're able to see. Now I can see this as a corner park. Now I can see this as a place where we have gardening, but we have flowering as well. So now we have vision of saying we want to do something after this. It ain't just we just tearing it down to be tearing it down.
I might call one of the poster child, so to speak, of the whole blight program is the Silver Dome. You talk about blight. That was a blighted structure. Many people knew where Pontiac was because of the Silver Dome, but also it had outlived its time. The roof had fallen in for lack of maintenance, and so it was no longer silver and no longer had a dome. So we were able to make that our biggest blight removal project in the city. It was demolished. We have now seen another industry that has come in, and that is Amazon. They are now taking over the whole 127 site, and that certainly has brought a whole new vision and nomenclature for that site in Pontiac. Having this be the first time that Amazon anywhere in the country has built both a distribution station and a fulfillment center on the same piece of property.
Amazon comes in, they take over the old Silverdome site, and what was the incentive? We're going to go fast for you. And that's the story that Pontiac is now able to tell. If you want to go fast and you want to build something and you need to be up and out of the ground and your company needs to be open by a certain date, guess what Pontiac can do? They ramped up their inspectors, their process, their reviews, their approvals, and now Amazon is building more than 1 million square feet almost overnight. That's the new story of Pontiac.
The Phoenix Center is the home of a 2,800-seat amphitheater that people remember in the city of Pontiac. We had festivals, cultural events, great concerts right in our downtown. And until a few days ago, it had been vacant for 9 years because it was a blighted property that had been closed down. And now we have brought it back with equity partners who are going to revitalize this and bring a whole new paradigm to this center that is now the mascot of Pontiac's revitalization.
When I started with Pontiac, working on the hearing officer and the blight, my files for condemned awaiting clearance was 2 4-drawer lateral files full. I'm down now to just simply a little less than 2 drawers. So we have torn down hundreds, if not thousands, of houses.
Here in Pontiac, we're working on restoring a legacy city. The town is transforming itself. And so you're working on the idea of transforming the identity of the city of Pontiac at the same time of maintaining its heritage, because people perceive it as an old automotive manufacturing town. Well, it can't be that anymore. That's all gone. There's more talent within 15 miles of where we're sitting right now than anywhere else in Southeast Michigan. More than 50% of the Fortune 500 is within 15 miles of where we're sitting right now. We have 72 of the top 100 Tier 1 automotive suppliers in the world are all within this region.
The conversation now is, what do we want our city to look like? Now that we have this canvas, now that we're not known as an industrial town anymore. So what is our identity? Or what do we want to be known for? I would say innovation. I would say being the first.
I see Pontiac coming back to where people will come here to see what's going on, to have fun, to just be around people that want the community to grow. That's what I see. I see the community coming back to where it was before. I see it now, more so than ever.
We made a commitment to restoring our neighborhoods by getting rid of the structural blight. We set our tone to do that in 10 years. We've accomplished it in 5. To achieve that blight-free status is certainly a great feeling to have accomplished that. I have 38 new building projects going on in the city right now. This is the most building that we've had since the early days of General Motors, and that's a long, long time. So the way we're going, our heydays are down the road here, and that's vision.
I think that it is going to be a lot of people doing very small, very positive things in their spaces. Coming in and saying, I'm not going to change the world, but I can make life better for people within these 5 blocks by 4 blocks.
We've got awesome opportunities. We've overcome a difficult past. We've got great leaders emerging here, but I just believe that we've got a promising future ahead, that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and that we're going to be able to achieve all those goals that a city like ours wants and that people in our community desperately want. We're going to get there one day at a time.
It's an optimistic place. You have to have a hope. You have to have a desire. You have to have a love and a passion for what it was and what it can continue to be. And I've seen that in the people's eyes, and I've seen them wanting that city back. I've seen them hungry for it, and I see it on the uprise.
Didn't Fathom Studios do a wonderful job of telling that story of the progress in Pontiac? They're out of St. Louis, and they're using Pontiac as a role model to take the model that we achieved throughout the city, throughout the country, as other cities like ours try to find the way to change themselves from industrial or older cities into progressive, transformational cities like we have become. I'm so happy that you have joined us today for the State of the City, one of several, and we are here at the beautiful new event center of M1 Concourse. I wanted to, each year when I did a State of the City, have people see what's new in Pontiac and be proud of what we have right here. And so we brought you here to the event center, and I see back there Tim McGrain. Stand up, Tim. Okay, who is our host this evening, and Bruce Rothschild, who is the event manager, and if Bruce is around, Bruce, you take a bow as well, because you did a beautiful job of preparing this for us this afternoon when we were here doing our dry run. Is Bruce here? Doing our dry run, there were actually performance cars racing on the track right outside here, and everything is so state-of-the-art, and they've done a wonderful job of preparing us to be here. And I thank you for coming and for being part of this, what they call a farewell address. Now, farewell address is kind of a misnomer, because even though this is the end of the 8 years I have served as the city's mayor, very proudly served of this wonderful city, I have been here for some 50-some years, and I'm not going anywhere. You know, you haven't gotten rid of me yet. I'm just here going on to another phase and some things. So people ask me, what do I do next? And I do have some things that we have developed. One of the things that we will talk about a little later, and that's I've always, as a mayor, had wanted to be like a city that had a community foundation. Sometimes we had people who were interested in some of the projects we had, and mayor said, we want to help you, but we can't give money to a municipality. You know, our rules and our bylaws for some organizations don't allow them to do that. So I would want the funding and the resources, and I would go and I would find some fiduciary that would hold the money for me so we could do the project. And I always said, why can't we have a community foundation like Auburn Hills and Rochester and some of the surrounding communities? So with the help of some of my friends at the OU Pontiac Partnership, we formed what's called the Spirit of Pontiac Community Foundation. And it was there, it was waiting for somebody to have some bandwidth to do it, and by golly, after I leave the mayorship, that's going to be something I'm going to take on as a personal project for that. So that's what's going to be happening as I say farewell to having to go to city council meetings every Tuesday night of my life, which I won't, that's as much of a labor of love it was, not always love, but you know how it goes. At city council meetings, we got things done. But at any rate, I'm so happy that you're here, that you're gracious, particularly the elected officials who are going to be taking on the baton. I see some of the newly elected council members here. Thank you for coming. We'll be handing on that baton to you. I have already been in touch with Tim Grime. It's important for the city that this be a smooth transition. You know, that's the way I roll. We don't kind of tear down the city just because somebody else is going to take over. No, I want to continue the legacy. And we're going to talk about the legacy projects that we have here in Pontiac. I want to continue that, and I want to make sure that the next administration has the tools and the techniques and the knowledge and experience that we have gained that have made the city progress, that you continue that progress. So as you see, the title of this speech, although my people told me it's a farewell address, but it's really, as my economic development director said, why don't we talk about look what we have done. Talk about that, our accomplishments and legacy as a city, what we have done together. And that's been so important because we've had community engagements and stakeholders who've been a part of all the progress and the projects we have made. But we define these somewhat by, as we're moving on to the next phase of the talk we have, is to talk about the legacy projects that we've had in the city of Pontiac. And by legacy projects, we mean projects that have been transformational, have lended so much to the city moving forward and making its progress. Some of these legacy projects, for example, are the Phoenix Center, the deal we reached with that, the public-private partnership with the forum, forming a youth center. And we can move on and you can follow me with the slides as we talk about this next phase of the legacy projects. Do we have our audio person who is able to move? All right, so here we go. All right, so one of the things that we have become is a destination city. And right here at M1 Concourse, we've had some events that have come here that the city would not have been competitive for. Does some of you remember Motorbella that came this fall? First time the North American International Auto Show, reimagined for COVID, came to Pontiac. And overall, the 5 days it was here brought about 80,000 people. Destination city, Pontiac bringing Dream Cruise, Pontiac bringing the American Festival Speedway, Pontiac bringing Roadkill, powered by Dodge. Those are things that we're now attracting to the city because we're a brighter, more beautiful city than we ever have been. So that is important to keep moving along in our progress, and that is what we call being a destination city. That's certainly a legacy as we look forward to other events and people who come to Pontiac and visit the city. Other legacy projects that we have as we're moving on. Okay. Thank you. Okay, people, keep moving. We're moving fast now. All right, let's keep rolling. Yeah, we talked about being the mayor, being the second term, and all those kind of things. You know that. Let's talk about the good stuff, all right? Let's keep moving here. All right, another legacy is that the city is now fiscally solvent. Remember, back in the days of the emergency manager, we had 3 of them over 10 years. And the city was in financial crisis. And the emergency manager, one of the things they did was sold off a lot of our assets. People said they sold off all their assets. No, they didn't. We still had jewels. But we could not solve our crisis until we had figured out how to get out of deficit. We were hemorrhaging blood. So it was Governor Granholm who signed the third emergency manager, and he was the one who outsourced so much of the city's departments. And the emergency managers, their job was just to cut the beans. And so they changed our budget from $55 million down to $28 million. That means they had sold off or changed so many of our in-source departments that they had changed the city that much. But we have now solved that fiscal solvency problem. And as you see, when I walked into the office the first day as mayor in 2014, the city had a $14 million deficit. Today, as we speak, I will be able to hand over a budget that has a $74.8 million of working funds. 37.8. Now that is made up of $36.1 million of operating funds. That's our revenue budget. And in addition, you've heard about the ARP funds. We'll have $37.7 million of American Rescue Funds. And that's one-time funding that's coming from the federal government. It's post-COVID relief, and we can use it for ways that are helpful to our neighborhoods, that are part of our infrastructure, that it can increase our smart city capabilities. And we have had a number of town halls. We'll talk about some of the ideas that have come out of these town halls for our people. So in addition to those items for the fund we're handing over, we recently had our share of the opioid class settlement, and that was $1.1 million. So that $74.8 million will be a lot for the next administration to start with, and you can do some good, and you can keep the progress going in Pontiac. So one of the things that has been part of our financial solvency is that we've had a huge growth in the business community. Now, I can name some that you're familiar with. You see a lot of them right here on the screen. Of course, everybody's heard of United Wholesale Mortgage. Who hasn't? Came to Pontiac with 2,500 employees. They now have 9,000. Okay. They have expanded their campus twice. Now they have the soccer arena, where we have a deal with them that our children from our center do come over there and engage in the brand new sports facilities there. Amazon, you saw Amazon. That was on a site that had been blighted, and we convinced them to come to Pontiac, and they now hire 5,000 employees. Williams International, down the street, down the South Boulevard corridor, has brought $500 million of economic recovery and development to this city. Array Manufacturing, it is an international, to show that we can bring international business, a tier automotive developer. And of course, the hospitals. The hospitals are among our biggest employers, all combined. And we have 4 of the major hospital corporations right here in the city of Pontiac. So that's what's making Pontiac great. That's what's moving along. And that which has brought fiscal solvency and stability and attractiveness to our city. So thanks for helping us make us financially stable. Now, with employers, they bring jobs. And a lot of Pontiac residents get these jobs. In fact, when I toured Array, everyone on the floor was a Pontiac native. That's great. There's some companies that court Pontiac residents, such as Williams International, which gives us funding every year to help to develop the pipeline for engineers. They can't get enough engineers. So we give scholarships every year to STEM-seeking students through the Williams Scholarship. There are 2 businesses who alone employ over 5,000 employees, and that's United Wholesale Mortgage and Amazon. And there's 21 businesses in the city of Pontiac that have over 100 employees. Now, Pontiac added approximately 12,000 new jobs since 2018, and the number is increasing every year. All right. That's good news. That's good news. So the statistics have increased, and let's cite some of those statistics. For example, household income and employment have increased. The average household income increased to $46,015 from $33,568 in 2019. The unemployment rate that was 2.9% as of 10/31/21, and that was down from 9.5% last month and 16.4% last year. Those are tremendous decreases to get a prosperous community. So we're happy to the employers that have come to Pontiac. We have had a much economic development because of that growth, and I thank the economic development team for all the small and large business support systems that they have. We're happy also that Pontiac has become now known as a technology hub, as we see many high-tech companies coming to the city, including Hebediah, which will soon be opening downtown, which has a very novel high-tech entrepreneurship that they're bringing to the city of Pontiac. So we've done many things to support small business, including having town halls to promote programs, including job fairs to match our residents with available jobs that employers bring. We created a resource guide so people knew how to support small business owners. So we wanted people to buy Pontiac and support businesses. We've had several new Pontiacs who have opened in Pontiac and have asked particularly for Pontiac residents, and we kind of matched that. And we've been a sponsor for Pontiac Small Business Saturday recently, which was sponsored by the American Express program to support local and small businesses. So we want not only to attract new business, but we want to sustain them and to maintain them. And that is what we are dedicated in doing. So we see all the list, and there's lots of new businesses of every ilk, and some of them are on the screen. And we have some of those representations represented here. I see Vince DeLarnardis from ALC. ALC has been part of so many of the projects in Pontiac, including this facility we're on right now. ALC was the construction engineers. You know, at one time, Pontiac had the largest inventory of vacated General Motors properties anywhere in the world. Now we're down to one parking lot. So ALC, I know you've been part of that in so many ways, and so we thank you. We're glad you're here, as you have been a great supporter for the city of Pontiac, and we want to recognize that in some way later on. All right. As we continue on, we know that all this was done during a pandemic. So it's hard enough to create business development. But during the pandemic, you know, we had to figure out how to work remotely. We had to keep people safe. We had to get people vaccinated. And so that was really even more exciting and inviting and challenging. But we continued to move forward. And not only did we continue to grow, but Pontiac had the most building projects during that period ever since General Motors began to build. So that's balancing things and juggling things and making them move forward, and that was great. Continuing on, I want to talk about another legacy project, and that relates to retiree health. So we're going to circle right on down the screen here and show you the next legacy project that we're so proud of. And there's late-breaking news about this right now. So we're very proud of the fact that we have retirees in the community, some of whom have fixed incomes, and we want to make sure that they have support by being able to live a quality life and aging in place. One of the things that happened in the emergency manager was that he terminated the retiree health care benefits, which resulted in a huge lawsuit. And that lawsuit, if it had been decided adversely for the city of Pontiac, could have driven us right back to bankruptcy. So that was what I was handled with as I came on to my mayorship. And so I was able to lead a mediation team that was negotiated for more than 2 years, as a matter of fact. And we're able to reach a settlement agreement by using the overfunding from the GERS fund, pension fund, to create a VEBA, which paid for health care. And that was something that had never been done, I understand, was a novelty by any municipality in the country. So anything that novel and that much of a change, of course, has to go under surveillance by the Internal Revenue Service. And they did that for about 1.5 years. And then in the meantime, we had to make sure that we hold this all together, make sure that the council and the several boards were working together to get this approved and to get that plan moving forward. And I must say that after 8 years, we were so close, and then we came up with a little wrinkle in terms of transferring the money from the GERS board to the new VIBA. And I must say that after we pushed that and kind of lobbied and kind of made people sensible that we don't want to go back to court on this, the retirees are depending upon us to get their health care. And we had been there, so we'd almost said, hey, look, you know, you're going to get your cards January 1st, and you're going to get your health care restored in February. And then we came up on this wrinkle, and they were threatening to go back to court, and we said that was ridiculous. But today, and I was at a GERS board meeting just today, and they voted, and we finally got the vote, that we're going to move ahead, they're going to transfer that money, and we're going to be able to restore the health care to the retirees next month. And I'm so grateful for the fact that we're able to accomplish that. That's certainly like a legacy. Let's keep moving on, and we'll talk about how we support our seniors in the community. Of course, we have our beloved senior centers and our senior specialists who provide so many activities and support services for our seniors, including the fact that during the pandemic, you know, our seniors were the most vulnerable population. I realized that there weren't, at first, vaccination centers here for our seniors, so we developed our own I got my shot program and opened up the Bowen Center as the first senior-centered vaccination center for Pontiac seniors here in the city. That's great, yeah. Seniors are important. And not only that, because the seniors could not convene in our senior centers during that time, we taught them how to use Zoom, and they had a lot of Zoom parties. And so they were so grateful to see each other. Some of them had never seen people on Zoom before and using their flip phones. We had to teach them how to get on Zoom, and they had such fun with their parties and our senior specialists. And some of the activities we had that they just loved, here's a white party, and we went out to the old Hayes Jones Center, the Western Lawn Tennis Club, and they just had a great time. Our seniors, you know, don't tell them they're old. They can hustle like the best of them. And so we're happy that our seniors are supported in our community. And that's one of the things that we're proud of, that we have senior support and senior activities right here in the city of Pontiac. In addition to the fact, our senior specialists provided meals for people who, during the pandemic, who might not be able to go out shopping or were afraid to do that. And over time, they also helped Meals on Wheels to provide that for the disabled and the homebound. And over the period of the 12 months that they provided drive-by food and meals right at the senior centers, they ended up serving 238,000 meals right through our senior centers for our seniors in the city. That's wonderful. And that's part of our legacy in terms of retiree health restoration, as well as taking care of our seniors in the communities. The next legacy project we want to talk about, which you'll see on the screen here as we move forward. All right, yeah, we talk about seniors, we're going to talk about youth, right? One of the things that's so important for any community is how we move our youth along and how we help them prosper and have wholesome activities. And one of the things I said before my first term was that I know that the emergency manager had sold off all the youth centers, but I was dedicated to being able to get a youth center back in Pontiac. And we tried a number of things, but we did, and I'm happy to say, have a youth center. I know we tried various things. Right now, we're at 825 Gulf Drive, where they love the basketball, but we also give them a lot of enrichment activities. And we have a number of partners who have done that. So we've had so many kids who are able to come and to socialize with each other, play sports, but also while we're there, we try to give them other enrichment activities. So that was done by a millage, which is voted by the residents of the city of Pontiac. You all did that in 2018. And so I am pleased to be able to continue to offer those activities. And, you know, we'll see how that continues. The next administration, you guys will decide just where we offer those activities for our children and how we continue that support. Our children are our most valuable resource, and we got to make sure that we continue to provide them with alternatives to the kind of violence and the kind of activities that they see. And that's what we're getting at the youth centers, thanks to the youth specialists who work with them. The youth centers are set up to curb juvenile delinquency while offering them programs to anyone under the age of 21, and we do that free of charge because of the millage. In addition, the City of Pontiac is striving to provide a permanent location, and one of those things we have thought about, since the city has decided not to purchase the Gulf Drive, is to repurpose one of our other centers. Ewald Center, I'm going to put that in your ear. Maybe that's the one that we do, and we find that permanent site as one of the youth recreation centers that we provide our children. So far, we've provided activities for over 2,500 youth who are regularly enrolled, and we did have a partnership with many organizations, including such organizations as the Boys and Girls Club of Southeast Michigan, PAL, and Cranbrook Institute of Science, just to name a few. But there are many others, and the kids just love the activities. They also get free meals and also other kind of encouragement and a chance to just be kids and to react with one another. Let's move on to the next legacy project we talked about. As we move past the STEM and the Boys and Girl Scouts, yes, as we talk about both youth and seniors, we see that even because of the pandemic, the population of Pontiac has increased. Last year, 2020, was a census year, and even despite the pandemic, we managed to count people, and most cities had trouble doing that. We had to find other ways than going door to door like you generally do, and because that wasn't allowed during COVID. And so even though we had to use those means, we found that we counted more people in the census and our population had grown. So in 2010, our population was about 59,515 people. After the census, we had grown to 61,606 people. So that was good news, because when you count the fact that for each person counted, that allows $1,800 per person per year for 10 years in terms of benefits that come to the city. And when you do the math, that turns out to $107.1 million per year. And over 10 years until the next census, that means there is $1.1 billion that will come to the city in terms of revenue and resources. So that's important. So one other thing we know about ourselves as a city is that we are diverse and we are inclusive. The 2020 census found that Pontiac had added 2,091 residents, of which the breakdown were 52.1% African American, 34.4% white, and the other populations as you've seen. So we are a very mixed and diverse population, which we knew, but that makes us stronger when we recognize the cultural diversity we have and work together to achieve that. And you see the average household income and employment rate and other median rates that we found out through the census that are important and interesting data for many of you. And we have that captured in our records. In addition to that, we found out that our downtown businesses had continued to thrive, some of them, but they were struggling. Downtown retail availability is about 17%, but the occupancy rate is 83%. So thriving has its privileges. The City of Pontiac Treasury Department collected $37.8 million in property taxes for the summer of 2021. We have 20,982 households that pay taxes, 68 new single-family residential dwellings, and development projects over the past years that have resulted in $500 million. These are 65 projects that are over $1 million each. So as I said, we managed to do that and continue to grow, even despite COVID. We had the COVID alert. As you see, some of you are still wearing masks. We're still taking our booster shots. So that never finished, and that's something that we're still finding to live with and still supports to still grow during a pandemic. It's hard enough, in a regular time. During a pandemic, it has been even more magical that we've been able to continue to grow and continue to exceed. And so we've been able to do that because of all the stakeholders and all the people who believed in the message that we were taking forward and helped us to achieve that. So COVID news alert, be safe, be healthy, be happy. As a physician, I know how important it is to continue to listen to the FDA, and that's what I have done as we've led the city, both in our facilities, but also throughout the rest of the community. All right, so we are happy for all the people who volunteered to help during the pandemic, including some of the ones that I gave the Progress in Pontiac Awards, where we awarded all the people who had humanitarian services during COVID, including the testing, healthcare, and certainly we appreciate our first responders who sacrificed so much and gave such dedication to get us safely through the period of the pandemic, and still are doing that. Get your shots. All right, in addition to partnering to provide drive-through on-site COVID testing at the City Hall parking lot, we actually were there when we opened the first drive-through testing center at the Oakland County Complex. And we also partnered with many groups, including Honor Health, the Greater Pontiac Ministerial Alliance, and others to offer on-site vaccinations. So those are exciting events in the city of Pontiac, and we want to continue to remind you that we are building exciting events, we're building attractive events, and we have some others that we're building, including something that we may be doing this Memorial Day. You know, you want to replace Arts Meets and Eats, so we have something in the works that we hope that will bear through, that will bring us people to town and find out what a wonderful city Pontiac is. Moving on to the next legacy project, we're happy for the fact that one of the things that we're always concerned about, and you heard how the housing stock has been affected by the fact that we've gotten rid of the blighted homes, but we also want to make sure that we have affordable housing in all strata for economic residents. The city of Pontiac, with the 60,000 residents, of which 60% rent housing. So it's important that those people find safe, affordable housing. Affordable housing doesn't mean that they're subject to unsafe, unsanitary, or unreal conditions. And some of the new projects we have in Pontiac that are affordable housing are such things as the Hamilton, and that's downtown, as you can see, as well as across the street on University. There's a whole Woodcrest a facility that's going up with duplexes, the first duplexes that have been built in 20 years in Pontiac. That's great. Newly renovated Section 8 apartments are a number of different places. Winston Commons is the one I mentioned, that it's across University, and some of these are beautiful, and some of them have actually changed whole neighborhoods, so that's been fantastic. And there's some others mentioned: Elhaman Manor, Pontiac Village Senior Apartments, Unity Rental, McDonald Senior Apartments, lots and lots and lots. I won't go through the whole list, but you can see that Pontiac is a place where people can find affordable housing, and we're increasing our stock to make beautiful places for people to live. We're going to go on through and talk about other community development, and we have supported a number of our resident villages, such as Stonegate Home Owners Association, and we have been creative and successfully attaining a 64.3% response rate when we did the census count. We have used the CDBG, Community Development Block Grants, for a lot of different purposes. And one of those has been, in addition to the clearance and demolition for the Blight Task Force, also for improving sidewalks. You see, we spent over $1 million in sidewalk repairs. A lot of people need sidewalk repairs. Senior center repairs, a lot on that. Yard services, the kinds of services people need to support and sustain their own home. Housing rehabilitation, housekeeping services, all of those are things that we have found resources to do that. We're looking for more to support enhancement and neighborhood living conditions. Sidewalk repairs is one of the things that we have put on our CDBG list as a work list, and some of the things that we're asking for with continued ARP funding. You see some of the projects our Department of Public Works have done, including the tons of asphalt. It's really phenomenal in terms of the number of streets we've repaired. Moving on through that, we see all the other normal stop signs and the things that get repaired every day. We thank our Department of Public Works, and particularly, they're the ones who've got to get out there and work the overtime to get our streets clean during the snowstorms and the things that the rest of us are sleeping. They get out to make sure we can get out and have our streets cleaned and ready for us to get to work and to get to our jobs and to get to our places of entertainment. We're just giving some kudos to our staff in the many departments who work in the city of Pontiac. We're moving on through finance next. You see some of the year-end reports that we have in which we talk about the accomplishments of each department. And finance, financial solvency is something they've maintained for us. And for 3 consecutive years, the city has now won the GFOA award, the highest award they give any municipality for accounts and balancing and fiscal solvency. So we're very pleased that Pontiac has now, for the first time, reached that pinnacle of reward. The next department I'd like to talk about is coming up, and that is the Planning and Development Department. And you've heard they've reviewed over 900 development and redevelopment applications for approximately $1 billion in construction value. That's a lot of reviews. Of course, they've been involved in developing a medical marijuana ordinance, a medical marijuana program, which you've heard about in Pontiac and wondering what's happening. 3 years ago, we voted to have the medical marijuana brought to the city of Pontiac. Haven't issued any licenses yet, but we're getting there. We just got to move along so we make sure we have a process that is above reproach and without conflict of interest. And our city attorneys are working to make sure that we resolve that program. I have appointed the Medical Marijuana Review Board, which is the last phase of appeal, and we're expecting that the clerk will be giving us some appeals so that we can move along and get the community and economic benefits that come from medical marijuana, which is what we had expected when we voted for it for the first time. So I'm looking forward to that very much. We're going to keep moving through these. I think you can see a lot of the accomplishments, and we want to talk about the fact that the city of Pontiac was certified by the MEDC as a redevelopment-ready community. That's a big leap forward and showing how much we have prepared ourselves to handle economic development, growth, and opportunity. Building and Safety Department is also under economic development. We see the many development projects they've handled over the years, 65 projects over $1 million each. That's a lot of permits to handle with one department. Also, I'm very proud of what's going on with our Code Enforcement Department that makes sure that we handle a blight in a way that goes through blight court now, which allows for a quicker handling of that rather than these nuisances staying for longer periods of time through many tickets. I am mentioning this because we're proud of what the work of our departments have done, and I would like at this time to recognize our staff members who are here, who have worked so assiduously to help Pontiac with the progress it has. I see some of them in various places, some of them are in the back, but at this point, I would like any department or division, staff members from the city of Pontiac to stand and be recognized by this crowd. We have here, don't be shy. All right, very good. They're used to being in the background, and sometimes they get shy when you ask them. Moving on through, all right. And of course, I see you standing in the back over there, Deputy Blackburn, our public safety officers. So important, our first responders, keeping her safe. I see them, they're here tonight to make sure that we have a safe. And I thank you so much, the public safety officers who have served the city of Pontiac so well, have brought the response time down to 7 minutes, what used to be 45 minutes under our police, and are serving the Pontiac, as we know that safety is one of the most important things for a community everywhere. And that's a picture of some of the officers standing at the Dream Cruise, I think, one time. We talked about medical marijuana, so we're not going to dwell on that because we just want to move that forward. But what I do want to get to, it's what's happening with American Rescue Plan. The money that we got from the federal government, that a lot of communities got, originally, Pontiac was slated to get $5.8 million. And when we found out that that was far less proportionate than a lot of other cities, we went to our federal and state representatives and said, how do we get our fair share of this money? And I'm happy to say that they worked with us, and long story short, I was able to sign for Pontiac to be a metropolitan city for 1 year, and instead of the $5.8 million, we now have $37.7 million. And there are some of the representatives who helped the city of Pontiac to get their fair share. And with that, because this is Pontiac's money, I decided we wanted to have community engagement to help us to decide a plan for spending this money, because there are eligible uses. So we had a number of town halls, very well attended, tried to do some in every district. People came with great ideas about how we should spend that money. And so we have collated all that and come with a lot of ideas that have come from the community, as well as some that the administration ourselves are going to be recommending to the City Council. So the City Council has heard some of those ideas and wants to make sure that the new City Council equally has that information about ideas for restoring our neighborhoods and offering citizen relief, infrastructure improvements, public safety, business development and job creation, as well as smart city initiatives. So these are some recurring themes that have come from residents' feedback. One of the things is to offer grants to owner-occupied homes owners for improvement and rent-to-own programs. Another idea that seems to repeat itself is to offer citywide broadband, internet, that a lot of our residents don't have. Offer police and fire investments for security. Even the Clinton River Trail comes up a lot. You know, there's a gap right here in Pontiac. Let's close that gap here in Pontiac. Yes, a lot of takers for that. And of course, small business report. Why don't we all have a revolving loan fund for our small businesses, some that are struggling post-COVID to survive. In fact, unfortunately, we've had just recently 3 of our downtown restaurants that have closed their doors. They were trying to hang on, but they could have used some of that ARP money right now. So let's get that going. There's some things that we want to do long-term, transformationally, and we have some ideas that have come from some of our nonprofits. We did have a town hall just for nonprofits at Oakland University, and some of the ideas that came out of that were, for example, Lighthouse, which wants to do an emergency service shelter for Pontiac residents and others. You know, there's only one shelter for homeless in Oakland County, and that's in Royal Oak, not in Pontiac. Can suffice that. So that's a good idea. Habitat for Humanity came up with the idea that give people money to help them close the gap in affordable housing. That's an important initiative for people who are trying to make that, the finances meet to have their own housing. Oakland University, our own partner, came up with an idea of having a nonprofit incubator. Great idea. All good ideas that came from these town halls. We have the Central Multicultural La Familia, which wants to do also a kind of community center. Also, the small business program is something we've recommended to council in terms of small business development, offering a smart city. There's a lot of cities that are now doing those infrastructure changes to make sure that people have broadband and other smart city to bring us up to modern standards for these kinds of internet and functioning. So those are some of the ideas that came out of the town hall. There's many more that I have, but let's make sure we do some things, some good things with this money. And it's important that it be things that we can sustain over the long run and make it transformational. This is one-time money. Let's spend it to make some real difference in the city of Pontiac. Also, we can leverage the money we have with what you see with the Oakland County and the state of Michigan have, and to increase our $37.7 million with support from them and resources on joint programs to increase it for even more. So those are just some of the ideas that came out of them. I'm sure there's many more, but I was happy that we were able to provide that opportunity for citizens to be engaged, for everybody to be asked, what is your opinion? And everybody has an idea about how to use the money. And one of the ways we had to train people about that was that you had to use it for eligible uses. Now, $37.7 million, if you do the math, and you divide by the number of people in Pontiac, well, you know, that's $609 for every person. So some people ask, well, why can't you just give me my $609 and let me walk away with it, okay? I could do a lot of improvement with that. And we said, well, that's a good idea, and I may help you, but it wouldn't provide long-term transformational change in Pontiac, and besides, it's not eligible. So unfortunately, we couldn't do that, so now we got to come up with some good ideas that are really long-lasting, transformational, that would benefit the city of Pontiac. Of course, there's other grants and funding opportunities as well, and we're happy for the collaborative to come to town and for the support we've gotten. And some of the companies that have helped us so much include the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan, have given us a $100,000 grant to form our own grants department. Next 50 Initiative, that's going to provide some help for our senior citizens and senior centers, and these are some of the others as we're going to build our grant capacity and our attractiveness to have kind of projects that we can court major foundations to come and to give us money to help to build our community. So that's great that we're developing that. We're going to build that more, and we're going to bring back our own grant making and application capacity right here within the walls of the city of Pontiac, and we got that process going on right now. Yes, that is good news. More resources always helps. So as we have done this, we're happy for some of the partners that we've had. And as we're moving forward with that narrative, one of the partners that we're so happy about is the Pontiac Oakland University Initiative, we call it. And that was something that we came up with the idea and saying that Pontiac is a city that has a very renowned institution of higher education just down the road. And maybe there was some synergistic activity we can be involved in. So we got together, found out how we could do that. They wanted to support us. We wanted to also support them into their metropolitan ambitions as a metropolitan university. And so we've come together with this initiative that now is in its 7th year, okay? This was a dream that a number of people have tried before, but this time we made it happen. And with that, they have been providing so much in the terms of support for all kinds of programs, both educational, business-wise, business forums, and we want to continue that initiative. You see some of the people there that have been key to keeping that alive, and the core group that's formed has also had a spinoff of something I talked about early, and that's the Spirit of Pontiac Community Foundation. That's a spinoff from the growth of those people. I'm so proud that they have been part to help us, and they are among the people that I'm going to name now, and that is people I'm calling Heroes of Pontiac. So as you know, oftentimes in the state of the city, I developed something I call the Progress in Pontiac Awards. And we do have pictures, I think, in your program of all the past award winners. And some of those are here. And if you're here, wave your hand. Let's see you. I hope you're still doing good things for the city of Pontiac. Right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So as we move forward there, the thing I'm going to announce tonight, because I decided to do something a little different, I'm going to talk about Heroes of Pontiac. And those are some of the awards that I'm announcing. And as people may hear their names, I'm going to ask them just to stand and be recognized. We have your awards right here, but in lieu of the timing of the evening, the fact this may come as a surprise to some of you, we did more in advance. But I'm just going to announce who these people are that I think have been heroes in terms of bringing Pontiac forward, and so much part of the success and had not been recognized before, and I want to have a chance to do that and tell you why I think they are heroes. And I did mention the fact that the Oakland University Pontiac Initiative Core Group are one of those heroes that have been so supportive from Pontiac, and particularly the ones who have helped to start that spinoff, which we call the Spirit of Pontiac Community Foundation. And those are Tom Kimball, Glenn McIntosh, and Teresa Rogers. I'm going to ask if anybody's here that can stand in place. We have your awards over here, and they look like this. We have something that as mayor I'm entitled to give, and that's a key to the city. So we're going to give our Heroes of Pontiac, the ones who are here this evening. We're going to have you come through to the afterglow, which is about to start momentarily. I've detained you long enough with all the good news about Pontiac, and we're going to take a picture of you receiving that award. The others, we will make sure that they get theirs. So next on the list is, and we're going to go to the youth again, which I think youth and education is so important for a community. And I'm going to talk about the Pontiac School District Robotics Team. They have been bringing Pontiac such renown in terms of their being such a dynamic group who have often won awards in these national competitions. So I'm going to recognize them as a team. Thank you, Gregory Spencer, their advisor, for taking them around and making them competitive, working with them throughout the year to develop their STEM skills. But also, I'm going to announce for them that Williams International, I talked about, has agreed to give their seniors scholarships this year. So that's going to be part of their award. I'm going to talk about some local favorites here who often don't get the big awards, but who give such local color and who are such standbys in their community and really make the community what it is. They're anchors. One of those is Nick Mansour. You know Nick's Corner? How many of you been to Nick's Corner? All right. They are one of our caterers tonight. Everybody knows Nick. Also, Uncle Jerry's Barbecue. Now, okay? Uncle Jerry's Barbecue. So he was so popular, and the fact that the city didn't have an ordinance for mobile food vendors, so we had to do a whole ordinance just for Uncle Jerry so he wouldn't be code violating. So let's reward Uncle Jerry. They're the kind of people that give flavor to a community, and we need to award some of these people and recognize them. I want to also give an award to Shaquana Davis. Shaquana Davis, a young, entrepreneur, a woman, minorities. You know how hard minorities is to have their own business. She has sustained her own business now. She does pastries and cookies. In fact, she has provided the cookies for us tonight that you'll take home in your swag bags. If anybody has seen had any Shaquana's cookies or pastries, they're so delectable and delicious, you really think you kind of died and gone to heaven, with all, I don't know how many calories. But Shaquana, she's a woman who has struck out with an idea and has been sustainable and has done that. She is a hero of Pontiac. Okay, those are some of our local favorites. I told you about new resources of people now coming to Pontiac to support us. And I want to also announce that one of these heroes I'm going to name is Semino Scott. He's the executive director, yes, of a group of funders, foundations that have come to Pontiac called Collective Impact. I want to thank him for the kind of enrichment he's adding and bringing that foundation community to find out things and activities and projects in Pontiac that are worth funding. But even more importantly for me is, and these are people I don't get a chance to reward so much, are my own executive staff who work tirelessly. Particularly Tamara Vesey. Tamara, back there, all right. My executive secretary, who is so thoughtful, professional, confident, and sometimes, how many nights, Tamara, we're the last ones to leave City Hall because we want to get the job done, and so conscientious about doing that. I want to also award, and many of you, this is no surprise, you see him around everywhere because he does a lot of everything, and that's Dwayne Lyons, all right? He started out as my executive aide and made that a job that had so many things, but since then, he has been senior center manager, arts commissioner, interim DPW director, and what else? A computer technician consultant. If anybody doesn't know how to fix their computer, to call on Dwayne. A producer for all our Unity in the Community concerts, and I don't know, a few other things. But in other words, ombudsman. If they can't get a hold of me, they call Dwayne, all right? So Dwayne, thank you for that, all right? Thank you for being my alter ego. In addition, I want to thank, and I mentioned a lot, our retirees and the unique work that has been done by senior specialists. I want to recognize the senior specialists of our two senior centers. And I'm going to name them: Linda Simpson, Gladys Smith, Deborah Finley, and the man of the group, Nathan Braswell. Thank you, all right? We have one for each of our centers. You are great. Our seniors love you, and you carried them through and kept them safe through the pandemic and found unusual ways to support them throughout that, as many of them were frightened and isolated. So you did a great job. The other staff members I particularly want to recognize is our DPW staff, because they don't get recognized a lot. You know, they get up early in the morning and they get out there and they plow the grass, and now the snow coming, and they kind of get the snow shoveled there, and they're working overtime, late hours, and they don't get recognized. But they're here every time we have an event. Last weekend, Many of you have seen the pictures of the Phoenix Center. Well, it doesn't look like that today as we speak. You know, the high winds that whipped through shredded our awning. Who are the people who got out there and helped me make sure that situation was stabilized? Was a couple of our DPW workers who get out there on the scene. So they're all out there at 4:30 in the morning, some of them, but Vince and Larry and Vic and all of you, you're great. And as a team, I just want to recognize you as people, valuable members of our team. And not like other communities, our community did not give you the hazard pay like they gave other DPW workers in other communities, so you're going to get an award from me. Not going to be a replacement for the hazard pay, but it's going to be my gratitude for what you have done, so people understand that. All right. The next awardee is someone who has served well, has started out as our commentator this evening, and has worked out with me ways. He came and said, hey, Pontiac is doing great things. I want to find a way to help you promote and to grow Pontiac. And he's done that, has helped us get recognized in every event that comes. We have invites me on his radio show, and people know that Pontiac now is the city on the move. And I thank you, Mark Lee, for getting us out on the airwaves, making us a well-known city, putting us back on the map, and staying so attuned to everything that's going on. Pontiac, yeah. I think he said Detroit earlier on, and you caught him at that. So he's going to have to write Pontiac 100 times on the blackboard, all right, as his punishment before he gets his award, okay? But otherwise, I know you know Pontiac because you've been talking about it, and you talk to other people about it, and I know you keep apprised of everything that's going on here. So the last two, they talk about people with vision, and that's what Pontiac has had, has helped us be successful, a vision of how we wanted to move forward, a concept of working together. Visionaries are people who can kind of see a little farther down the road than the rest of us and kind of find the way and map out a path, and then it pulls the rest of us along. Well, I want to talk about two visionaries who I think made a great impact in the Pontiac community. One of those was the visionary that made M1 Concourse possible, Brad Olshansky. Yes. Just got to work a lot with Brad. When I first became mayor, he was working on this project called car condos that nobody had never heard of. They thought he was crazy, and he had to dig 200 holes just to get past environmental, and it looked like the financing was going to get together, but he was resilient. And look at this now, what he's brought. Nobody's laughing about car condos now. M1 Concourse, that's visionary leadership to push through. And I think so great for all the things that are going on, Tim and the Zlotov family who have carried that vision forward. But also, I want to remember, because these are people that I kind of cut my mayoral teeth on, George Darian, that Ultimate Soccer Arena, and it was a vision that he had. It was very unique. A lot of people don't know, but that set track records because it was the largest indoor amateur sports facility anywhere in the country, right here in Pontiac, you know? So I like people to know about the jewels in Pontiac. When they said that everything was sold off by the emergency manager, no. There were lots of jewels, lots of people with zillions who loved the city. And that soccer arena has now turned into something that United Shores bought, and they've added $10 million to it. They have 8 basketball courts. The kids love it. That's where we had the jam session. They let all our kids come and play. People can come and participate in that. That's right here in Pontiac. Great thing. Visionary. So these are the Heroes of Pontiac Awards I have for this evening. Any of them who are here will get their awards and we'll get pictures. For the rest of you, I thank you so much for being part of this. Many of you have played a role in Pontiac over the years. This is a chance for me to say thank you for what you have done for your support. You know, it's been challenging, but it's been great because in the end, keep our eyes on the prize, keep moving forward. We've done a lot together. And that's what I'm happy about. And that's what we can all, as we sit here in a M1 Concourse with the performance track, let's all take a victory leap together and applaud ourselves for what Pontiac has done to move forward, to be recognized as a city. So once again, I thank you, M1 Concourse, for hosting us for this event. I think a lot of people have never been here, and so it's great to see. They've done a wonderful job of putting this together. I invite you all for the afterglow down the hall here. come right in and let's get some pictures and live some memories together. I hope you've enjoyed the retrospectives and the pictures that we look forward. Many of you are in these. I hope that you will continue to love and to support Pontiac as I do. I'm not saying farewell. I'm just saying let's move on to the next step in our progress. Thank you.